We are going to be presenting on a program that both of us created in our school. So we're going to just tell you a little bit about ourselves. So then as we explain our program, everything kind of flows. But I am a speech pathologist. I have been working at my current in place of employment, which is a school for individuals with moderate to severe autism with a little bit more of complex needs. We have a couple different areas of, PowerPoint is in the back corner. Okay. Areas of need. So we have complex diagnoses with our autism, but it is predominantly autism. So a lot of what we're talking about is related to autism, but it obviously applies to various complex needs. I have been where I am for 14 years, and I'm currently doing research with the population of autism and the transition age group. I absolutely love our teens to adults. It's been such a pleasure working with these guys, and I've been doing a lot of research about what happens to them post-secondary, which is kind of what we're all trying to do here. And so a lot of what we've created was trying to prepare our types of students that we didn't really see represented all that much in a lot of the conferences, just trying to get them a little bit more independent and have a little bit more opportunities. You just want to say.
Right. And hello, I'm Jessica Berger. I'm an occupational therapist. I've been working with Kim since 2013, so I don't know that math, but a couple years now. I have been predominantly working with our population that's 14 through 21 for the past probably four or 5 years. And before that started with our lower school, and that's kind of where this Timothy School Cleaners has come about, which we will explain in the next couple of slides.
So what our whole project that we're going to be presenting on is based on, I've attended this conference. I absolutely love this conference. We went to so many different breakout sessions, had such great experiences, a lot of programs, and every time we asked questions, how it could apply to our students with a little bit more complex needs, not quite physically able to do as much, cognitively having a little bit more of some deficit areas, non-vocal, all of these areas. A lot of the responses were like, oh, once they're more independent, once they can read through the list, once they can do this, and a lot of our students just can't do those same things. So we adapted, we created new ideas. I love all the information, but we needed areas that our students could actually be successful. And we think what we've seen so far has been very successful with our students. So it is for individuals, like I said, with autism that we're focused on. So what comes out of our mouth is all based on our experience with autism, but hopefully it can apply to any of the populations that you are working with. And so pretty much what, luckily for us, we work in a program that is very collaborative. I have learned so much from working hands-on with an occupational therapist. Prior to doing collaborative work, I thought occupational therapists did all writing and cutting, and that's my experience, and I was not a huge fan of the field. Now I have so much experience, I'm able to carry over things that Jess has taught me, what the educational professionals have taught me, which has really allowed us to expand this program so that our educational teachers are using speech and language methods, our occupational therapist is using speech and language, I'm using OT skills, we're all collaborating together, which has made this program even more successful. And that's where the Timothy School Cleaners, which is the name of our school, kind of came about. And what we're talking about is going to be the application of utilizing a system. So most of us use planners or our phones for calendars. We all use types of systems. I know I'm the type of person that if I have stuff in my planner, I have to either cross it off, check it off, highlight it, something to show that I finished it. I like that feeling of accomplishment. That's how I make sure that I feel accomplished with what I have for my to-do lists or my schedules. So we're kind of utilizing the same systems that everybody uses and applying it to a job training so that we're things that everybody uses and ideally introducing technology just the same as we all do. So see, I'm going to walk around. Sorry, can you hear me? Sorry. All right. So some of the foundational skills that we have started talking about and working with, we started with cognitive processing. It's one of the skills that it's just simply taking the knowledge that a student already has and able to generate new knowledge. So one of the things that we work with is JIG formats, which is how do you present the material and how do you present something that they can understand. So if I gave a student a written list of jobs to do and they can't read, obviously they're not going to be able to follow it. And as a speech language pathologist, that includes the language. A lot of times people think because a student can read or can use picture communication functionally, that if you present it, it's automatically going to be understood. That doesn't necessarily mean that it will be. So a lot of the cognitive processing that we start with is kind of seeing when you give a student different materials, as far as written lists, picture cards, photographs, what are they able to actually do with the information? Can they comprehend what you're providing? And sometimes it's just figuring out how they process that information. So that's one of the first things we do. The cognitive planning aspect is how they synthesize, formulate the information, again, like processing, but we read left to right or top to bottom. That's not always an innate skill, so learning what way someone is reading the material, whether it's with picture form, icons, whatever it is, how are they reading the material? So if you gave something left to right and they only see their left side or they only are concentrating on the one side, you're not presenting all the material, so maybe top to bottom. Another part of that is task analysis, which is taking each step of a skill. Sometimes we think it's very basic coming in and sitting in a classroom, very basic skill, but do you know where to sit? How close do you sit next to someone? Should you sit in the front of the room, the back of the room? There's all different hidden agendas. So sometimes having task analysis of each step, where are we losing someone? So they might not have a deficit of a skill, it might be a step within the skill. So really understanding what part of that we're losing a student will give us an idea of what they're actually capable of doing and where we need to focus. And then cognitive organization, one of the things that we find, it's been great to have the overlap of working with an occupational therapist. They also work in cognition. I work in cognition. When we present materials, as in the actual activities, so say we want to build a hotel. When you go to a hotel and you get a coffee or tea, you get the thing with the two different kinds of sugar, a stir, a napkin. So we want to have a student build a little hotel bag for a coffee. How do I give them the material so that they can create that bag? We have students that you can just throw a bunch of material on a table and have a list with each item listed, and they'll put it in perfectly. Then we have students that if the material is not separated left to right, they cannot do it. It has to be organized sequentially, very specifically, so that they can understand, oh, this is what I put in first, this goes on top, this follows. It has to be set up very specifically, and they can do it over and over again, and we'll try to change the order. If we change the order, they can't use it any other way. So the organization is actually how is their brain organizing what's in front of them. Same thing with puzzles. If you think about a puzzle, some people might start and do all the outline of a puzzle. Some people start with a corner and then build it up. It's the same thing. It's how each of us individually organize the materials when we find it. So if I see something, that's how I process it. It's going to be different than maybe how Jess does it. And if you look and actually pay attention to how the student is organizing it, that can really help us capitalize on what their strengths are, so that you can then present materials in a way that they understand. I'm going to let you kind of take over here and talk about how foundational skills of cleaning and
Of cleaning?
Yep.
As an occupational therapist, I'm very functional thinking. I'm always thinking of the most functional way to do something. I started at Timothy School with our 5-year-olds and noticed that they were cleaning throughout the day, whether it be after snack, after an arts and craft activity, constantly. And then a couple years in, I started to transition to our 14 to 21-year-olds. And again, there was another cleaning aspect. It came after cooking special activities. It came after doing their lunch prep. It was a lot of patterns with what I was seeing. And so we kind of started to put together these ideas to come up with Timothy School Cleaners. So our presentation today is about an internship, but the best thing that we've found through Timothy School Cleaners is that these are skills that our students are using in their daily life. So whether they are going to leave us at 21 and have an internship, or they're just going to live their life, we're teaching them skills that they're going to be able to use throughout their lifespan.
And this is based on cleaning, but one of the things we found was that knowing the systems and kind of all of the cognition that we've learned has allowed us to kind of apply it to other areas. So we are going to be focusing on cleaning, which, as just said, residential, with family, with relatives, wherever they go, we all have to clean up after ourselves. We all have to take care of ourselves. So it's something that we felt could apply in any setting, but we really feel the systems that we created would benefit students outside of cleaning as well.
So introduction of Timothy School Cleaners. So basically how this all came to be was seeing this pattern of cleaning. And I realized that I was cleaning a lot throughout my day. And I said, well, how can we make this kind of be generalized from our 5 to 21-year-olds. So we started this sequential learning experience where, what our 5-year-olds are responsible for is way different than our 21-year-olds. So we have, I guess, general information, the student responsibilities versus staff responsibilities and the materials. I'll kind of give you a general overview of what Cleaners is, and then we'll get into a little bit more specific. So the students are responsible when they are in our Timothy School Cleaner internship. They wear a uniform. They have to understand their system, which Kim was explaining a second ago. They have to complete their jobs. They have to talk to a supervisor. They have to talk to their coworkers. And then, so they are responsible for the job. The staff is responsible for setting up the job. So we have all the materials. We set up the environment. They don't move the table numbers. They don't move any of the different materials that we have for them to access the environment. We set all that up. We set up their lists. We decide who supervisors are going to be. We decide where their break table is going to be, kind of all of that type of stuff, and we keep it consistent so that they understand their environment. And then we have a bunch of materials here, which we will kind of show you as we go through the presentation. We have different lists. We have the materials that go out into the environment so that they know what tables are, what windows are, where the trash cans are that they're going to empty, where the dishwasher is, where they're going to put dishes, all of those kind of things. And the coolest part, I think, about Timothy School Cleaners is that it started so differently than where it's become, and I know it's going to look so differently in a few more years than what it is now. It's been this snowball effect. So as we started and we just kept things simple, they were cleaning tables and windows in the classrooms, and then all of a sudden now they were cleaning, the cafeteria. Then we started to see, they're starting to master some of these skills where they were just getting the cleaning things down. And then we said, oh, here's other needs. We can now start introducing leisure skills. So they have a break room table where they're going and taking breaks during their chore lists and learning how to break. And for our students, that's extremely difficult. They just want to get their work done. They want to start and finish and be done. So we're trying to give them opportunities to learn how to break during their chore lists and how to, because when they're on the job in the community, you work for an hour and then you get a 15-minute break and then you go back in, you work for an hour, and sometimes your work's not always finished. That's very hard for our students. So we started introducing those skills. We're bringing in eye touches. So a lot of our materials are a little cumbersome, and it can kind of make our students stand out a little bit. So we're trying to adapt their eye touches to have their chore list on their eye touches, just like any other worker would be. I mean, we're all on our eye touches all the time. So trying to have them work through their chore list on something that can just be on their pocket, on their person, and adapting that technology. We're doing math and money skills now. So we have paychecks, and they have to earn their paycheck through doing their chore list, and then they get to go to our school store. They have to go to our bank where they get their money and then deposit it. So we're introducing all of those skills. We have staff meetings chore list, post chore list, where they have to sit down. We do a lot of WH questions, where that's where speech has taught me so much. I've learned so many things about language, and I listen to the speech pathologists run these staff meetings with all these questions and watch the kids and all the comprehension, and it's absolutely amazing. So we talk about what they're going to do, they do their job, then we have our post-staff meetings where they have to talk about what they just did. So then we have different presentations of the system. So we started with everybody had the same chore list, and as Kim had just explained, we had to adapt, and we have adapted so many different chore lists as of this point. So that was something that has changed over the years. We now have our students do interviews. So they have to interview in the beginning of the school year with our principal, and they'll email the principal to set up their time, and then they get dressed up. We send the parents a message home, oh, your student has an interview, they need to wear the attire. We talk about it. We have all of these different like talks and groups and everything to prepare them. So that's been really cool. They fill out resumes. We talk about the different jobs, and some of our students are like, oh, I don't want to do that, or oh, I'd rather do this job. And so that's been really interesting to see. They start to learn about a boss and a supervisor and how to go and find that person and who they are responsible to report to if they need help or if they need more materials or if they're confused about their job. And now we also have them clocking in and signing in. There's everybody has to have a shift, and they have their times. They sign in, they clock in. We have different ways of presenting that. So it's just been really great to see Timothy School Cleaners develop over the years, and like I said, just kind of snowballing, and new things have been coming in and out. Good. Okay. So Timothy School Cleaners, like I said, started in the classroom. It was very simple. We started with our five-year-olds and then our transition kids, where they were just doing like classroom jobs. So it wasn't an internship. It was just students making lunch, cleaning up. Then they were, cooking, and then they were cleaning up. So we saw all of these things, and our students, because they are severe to moderate, a lot of times I've noticed the staff cleaning up for them. So we tried to start being like, okay, our students need to be responsible for their own materials, they make lunch, they eat their lunch, now they need to clean up their lunch. So it started being very in the classroom about themselves and their own materials, what I need to do for myself. Then we started there looking at different fundamentals. So speech comes in with teaching clean versus dirty, and the collaboration has been so helpful because we come with all of our different perspectives for one common goal, and the students are really starting to see the full picture. So we have clean versus dirty. They're starting to learn the supplies. What kind of, what do I need to clean a table? What do I need to clean a window? Just those basic foundational skills. They're learning where the supplies are located. Where do I get Windex? Where do I get paper towels? How do I get to that place? They're looking for, sorry, I just lost my place. They're learning the language. Again, speech has been so helpful in teaching me. I've learned so much about the different ways to present language, learning how to give simple directives, simple language, especially for our students. We talk a million miles a minute. I know myself, let me know if I'm talking too fast. I am a very fast talker, and I've learned that I have to slow down to present things with just wipe table, wipe, put, get, just very simple language, all the way up to our students who can have more complex language, so seeing that gamut. Manipulating the various system, we have some students who cross off. We have check boxes where, check marks, PCS kind of where they move the check box. We have closed door systems, all those different things. And then money skills, so starting to understand the payoff. So not everything, so in the classroom, it was a very quick payoff. I clean, and then I'm finished, and, I get that payoff, that reward. Okay, so then it started to develop from the classroom into the internship. So our middle school students were 14 and up, and they go to our daily living center where they clean the house, they make food in the house. It's very home skill based. And then our Timothy School Cleaners was internship based, and that's in the cafeteria. So now they're starting to understand that I'm not just cleaning up after myself, I have to clean up after others, and I have to do things for other people. So we introduced a uniform. So they all wear blue aprons, and they know when they put on their blue apron that they're getting ready for Timothy School Cleaners, and I'm ready for work. Now they're clocking in and clocking out. They're reporting to a boss, things that they weren't doing in the classroom before. they're taking breaks. So we have a break room table and we have a leisure table. So we have different areas for them to break. Learning to use their leisure skills. So we have magazines and news to use and puzzles, and they listen to music on their iTouches. So they're doing those next step kind of skills that they weren't doing in the classroom.
We do try to make sure that it's not only iPads or only technology. I don't know, just children in general. Technology is the only reward or only break that everybody wants. So we do really try to make sure we have other options to make sure that when we're teaching leisure, this is where it's great to work with teachers a lot, because leisure skills needs to be beyond watching YouTube on an iPad. So when we're at internships, they need to know how to leisure. Just saying they have to take a break, you have to teach students how to take a break and what does that mean. So sometimes that might mean we say you have to take a break for 5 minutes and you have to pick from this bin. So there is no technology, and we're like, okay, like let's keep looking through a magazine, or we do different skills like that. So that's also where it's been helpful to work with teachers and work with other professionals, because leisure is not that simple. It sounds simple because we all love taking breaks, but our students, that's not how they function. They like working, they like following what they're supposed to do, and then they're done. So leisure is a whole lesson that we're working through now, and it's been really helpful for us also to realize that technology is not the only leisure that we should be doing. Because that's the easy one.
Leisure was one of those things that kind of came about this year where we saw the biggest need during cleaners, and our students they're finally understanding and accepting it, but this was the one thing that they didn't want to do. They were like, well, just let me go back to my chore list. I just want to get my chores done. Just give me more work. And we were like, I feel like we had to force them more to break and enjoy themselves than do the work part. So this has been something that we just started this year, and something that we are definitely going to develop, because our students, there's a big need for understanding leisure skills, especially when they're in the community, which we'll get to. They don't understand how to break. Now that they're in an internship, they're also earning paychecks. So whereas before, if they cleaned, they might get the iPad right away, or they could get their favorite stuffed animal right away in the classroom. Now they're going to sit down and go through a list, and they have to get so many check marks on their list to earn their paycheck. We hand them their paycheck right away, but then they have to put it in their wallet and save it until our bank is open. When their bank is opened, they deposit it, get $1 for the school store, and then again, sometimes have to wait until their session at the school store is open. So it's understanding that I don't get that payoff right away. Like, yes, I earned my paycheck, I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to use it at the school store. Some of our higher level kids too, we've also been trying to get them to save their money and take them for like a lunch or a trip to Target or something where they could buy a bigger item. So those skills are still working, because again, they have that dollar, they just want to spend it. So trying to teach them those kind of skills now.
And currently our bank is a decorated box that Jess created.
In my office.
That she created, and she is the bank, so she opens. But we actually contacted some local banks, and they are donating an old ATM machine for us to use. So we were like, no, we want a real ATM. We want the paper paycheck to go away and money to come out, and we have to stock it with the same money that we use for their jobs. But that was something that a bank was very willing to give us, an ATM that they said was old, and we have to run it. But we're like, this is great, because right now we have a cardboard one.
Yes,
but
yes.
it's still teaching.
Sounds and all, but it's not the same. Yeah, it's not the same. At this level too, they're also working with peers and coworkers. So trying to get them to talk to their coworkers, ask their coworkers for help, just understand what a coworker is, and not always rely on their supervisor. We, at this level, have them understanding supervisors and coming to us, but now it's like the next step, go to your coworkers, see if your coworker needs help. Oh, there's only one box of Clorox wipe, and Joe is using it. How are you going to get those Clorox wipes? And again, not self-focused skills. We're cleaning up a cafeteria. Why am I doing this? I didn't make this mess. I didn't eat here. Why am I cleaning this up? What is the reason? What's the point? So just trying to teach them how to do skills that aren't just taking care of themselves. Okay, pictures. So this is some of the photographs from Timothy School Cleaners in our cafeteria. So this is where our internship has started. So everything is based off of the cafeteria, the system, understanding, the whole coming up, so when the students come up and they go to their break room table, or I'm sorry, their staff meeting table, they get their chore list, they go to get their apron, so they're in one designated spot, they're always hung, so they know where they are. It's in the same closet, seen here, where all the all the cleaning supplies are, so they know where that is. So they get ready for work, and then they go back to their staff meeting table where they're told what to do, their chore lists are, they work. So everything is kind of the same in the cafeteria. They learn the system in the cafeteria. The visuals that we have are all set up in the cafeteria so that they know what tables they're cleaning, what counters they're cleaning. Everything's labeled for them, and that's our responsibility as the staff. That's what we set up, and then the students know how to access those things.
There's more pictures. So.
Can I get to those pictures?
Yeah.
Just by hitting it? Okay, there. These are a couple photographs of another system within cleaners of how to stock drawers. So this is a little bit of a higher level skill where we're teaching our students about hygiene. They have to put on gloves to stock the silverware. As much as we try and teach them not to grab the part where you eat, it's very inconsistent.
It's a learning process.
Yes. So we have students who, wash their hands first, then put on gloves, or just wash their hands, just trying to teach those hygiene skills. They have their drawer there where there's different colors. We set up what needs to be stocked. Then they know where to go and get the silverware, the plates, the forks, the napkins. They come back to the drawer. So it's all a structured system that they have been taught, that we set up, and then they are able to independently access.
And everything's labeled in our cafeteria, which has benefited our younger students that are not in the transition. So one of the great things that we found, I think if you go to the next slide, that we've found is that it's helping our other students when we're teaching cooking classes, or they're just in the cafeteria getting lunches ready, going to a microwave. We have a system on the microwave for how to use the microwave, but we never had it labeled prior to the cleaners because we just didn't think to label every single thing. It's a lot of work. It's tedious. But now that we have things that are labeled, the younger students are learning a lot more how to use the appliances or go to the freezer versus the refrigerator. One of the things with language that we've learned with the dishwasher is when I eat a sandwich, not always does my plate look dirty. Sometimes my plate looks clean. So if you were saying, is this clean or dirty? It's a really hard concept to say, like, no, you ate off of it, so it's dirty, but it looks the same as the one that is clean. Or when the dishwasher's run and you take something out, it's clean technically, but there's still sauce stuck to it. How do you teach that versus? So one of the things that we're trying to tell our students is that if the dishwasher says load, that means things go in it. Doesn't matter if you think it's clean or dirty or what your own perception is. We're going to try to teach that still, but we're like, load means put it in the dishwasher, and unload means take it out. And then as our students get higher level and start understanding those language concepts, then we start talking more clean and dirty. It's just when we start with clean and dirty, we found it's really hard to differentiate between that peanut butter that's smeared on when there's nothing on the plate, but it's still dirty. So it's been helpful for all of our ages that we're starting that young, so that by the time they are in a setting where they're doing work or cleaning up, or we're saying you need to load the dishes from the sink, they're not putting them into the cabinet, and then we have to go figure out which ones are the ones that just came out of the sink. So starting that early and having our cafeteria, it's very, very busy and it's tedious and not always possible for everything, but we have found that it really benefited all of our students so far.
Yeah.
So
Good on that, right?
yeah.
Okay. So now we're entering, so we've talked about Timothy School Cleaners just in the cafeteria setting, and kind of where our students start to learn the system is at school. Does anyone have any questions about anything so far before we move into going into the community?
Which bank gave you the ATM?
Which bank gave us the ATM? I'm just repeating the question like I was.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I'm supposed to repeat the question. It was which bank gave me the ATM? I think it was the Malvern. I can look it up for you because I have it in my email.
They've been wonderful.
Yeah, but we asked Wawa too. We asked Wawa's been really receptive with stuff too, but they just didn't have any that they just threw out. So the bank had some, they just had some in their basement, they said. So we're like, oh, well, we'll take one from you. So, but come to me and I'll look at my email and I can let you know. Yes.
I think you mentioned this, but I missed it. Are you using money that you make specific for your school, or are you using real money that is provided by like the parents or by yourself?
So we use real money. So our school store is complete donation based. So we actually recycle the money. So if they're shopping at the school store, that's recycled money. They don't know. That's why we want an ATM, so it doesn't look like it's just coming out of our pocket and then we're doing that constantly. But the money that they're saving is actually from when we get hired for things or tips. Our teachers, we have different teachers that will tip our students. We have different opportunities for them to make money. And so it's real, we're using real cash. We found that that's the most realistic. And so our school store is everything is $1. But so it's, we're just working on math right now. But that is, with the paychecks, we try to make them look as real as possible. We have the kids that are able, we have them sign or stamp. And then that's why we want the ATM to look a little more realistic so that the money actually comes out rather than the money magically is at Jess's desk and then it's coming out of a fake box slot. So, but it is we have enough money for every student that it goes through our system.
Will
Yeah.
everybody get a MAC card or?
So that's
that,
what
yeah.
we're working towards, and that's what we'd like because we can actually control the ATM itself. And they actually, the bank that we've been talking to has one that's also has a software to it, and they said we can even set up fake accounts to be on the software, so it would be connected to a computer, which is what we'd really like, because then the kids could actually, if they're able to look at an account and we can manipulate the accounts, but then say, oh, look, you don't have any money left, or you didn't earn money this week, which is one of the great things that we've also learned with the paychecks. If you're running around the cafeteria and ignoring your boss or bothering your coworkers and not doing what you're supposed to do, at your staff meeting, we discuss it, and then the paycheck isn't there. So it's been really great for the kids to learn, like, oh, I don't get to shop at the school store. And it's been really good for cause and effect. And like, we all work to make our money. So that's how it works. So that is the ideal. We don't have that. We don't have that yet. So right now we only have a debit card for everything. So,
So everybody opens the card in?
yeah. So yeah, so we're working through all of the kinks of all of that. So
Okay. So basically at this point, we have Timothy School cleaners in the cafeteria. The students understand their job expectations. We've kind of developed the system that works best for them. So now we're trying to generalize it into the community. We have actually three placements, but really two that we've been really working hard at these past couple years, where the students are in the community doing the system at an actual community-based internship. So our first one's a local church placement. Do you want me to do Trinity or? All right. So our local church placement is just right down the street. Our students are generalizing everything that they've learned, on campus now to the community. It's the same materials, just presented in a different location. So the jobs are very similar at the church. This is pretty much like our first level community-based internship. So it's very simple chores. It's just 2 rooms, one big open area where there's tables and windows, and there's sometimes opportunities to stock shelves. And then they have a kitchen where there's counters, microwaves, things like that to clean. There are bathrooms that we just recently had a student start to go into the bathroom to clean, but that's when they've been at this placement for a little while. They're using familiar vocabulary, language. It's kind of just the very beginning, the introduction from campus into the community. So it's a nice transition. It's very quiet. There's a preschool attached, but we've never seen the students. So it's a nice quiet environment for them to learn. So once they start to understand that now they're using the same system, we get to start introducing more novel vocabulary and language. So Kim and the speech therapist have been a huge part of implementing that and teaching me and the teachers like what the students understand, what the next level is, how the words all and oh my goodness, what other ones, like through, these words that I just throw on a chore list are like, oh goodness, no, the word all, the students aren't going to understand that yet. Like, we need to slow down. So for our community-based internships, our students have to get there. So that takes a lot of skills in general. And this is kind of the best part about cleaners, that it's developed and it's snowballed into all of these different things. So once we started to see that our students had to go to the job setting, we started to learn that they needed to learn how to get in. We have vans at the Timothy School. We're very lucky that we have vans to transport our students, but sometimes riding in a car is not easy. We have looked into teaching our kids how to use buses and trains and everything, but for us, we just are getting into the van. But before they even depart, they have a pre-staff meeting at school where they learn what job they're going to. They have to get their uniform on, and they have to do job prep. So they do grooming skills. They go in, they brush their teeth, wash their face, comb their hair, put on deodorant, kind of get ready, do those skills that they need to do to get ready. So again, we're just kind of scaffolding constantly from just cleaning a table. Now we're at grooming skills. So now they have their uniform on, they've groomed, they have to pack their own supplies. Do they need to bring their AAC device? Do they have to bring leisure skills, their lunch? What personal items do they need that they're responsible to pack and then bring with them? Again, so the traveling, getting into the van, being okay in a van. How do some of our students ask to listen to music, or some others will just kind of look out the window. Like, what do they do in the van and how are they behaving? They're carrying their own supplies. We're putting a lot more responsibility on them. They have to be in charge of themselves, of their supplies, and much more self-responsibility at this point, which is really great. Learning about social skills in the community, reporting to a familiar boss at this stage. There are a couple of bosses at the church that once our students feel more comfortable, that we start having them go in and talk to the boss there. So once we leave, they all have to go check out with the main boss they're not familiar with, that they never see these people ever, but they're starting to learn how to communicate with unfamiliar people. And then also the time is getting greater and greater between earning a paycheck. So now they're going out in the community, then they get back, then they have to wait to get back to have their post-staff meeting to get their paycheck. So we're just kind of growing that time and their understanding of, I'm doing work, but it's not that direct payoff. I have to wait, I get back. Oh, did I earn a paycheck? Oh, I did, great. Now I have to wait again, and just trying to grow those skills.
And one of the great things that we're obviously at a local church, but one of the things that we really found was important for the first level in the community. So you teach a skill, then we have our very structured on campus in their familiar settings, areas that they recognize. The cafeterias, obviously, they've been cooking there. They make their lunches there. They go there for various activities throughout their day. It's very familiar. The reason that we picked the church setting as the next step and as our first level in the community was because all of that materials and the vocabulary and the language, which I keep harping on, sorry, but it's all the same. So they have microwaves, they have stoves, they have refrigerators, they have tables, they have counters. It's all words that they already know. I don't know if you want to just say the example of our student, one of our students that was in the middle school this past year, and then this summer he has moved into our secondary program.
Yeah. So he has been doing Timothy School Cleaners for a few years. He's one of our very concrete students, has just started at the church. His first day was on Thursday, and I went with him, and we set up the system, and I was nervous. I mean, this student definitely has a lot of anxiety. He has difficulty generalizing. He aced it. He did everything independently. The only thing, so we had him washing windows, washing tables, and he washed the microwave. He just had trouble finding the window because they looked a lot different than they do at school. They're little square windows in a door. So he's used to windows on a wall. This was in a door. So that was the only thing that he had difficulty with. But he went through his system. He independently referenced it. He went, back to it. He found the tables. He did, from my perspective, cleaned the tables beautifully, did all the steps I was looking for, very thorough cleaning, found his supervisor. So there were 2 windows that he couldn't find. So me and the teacher have discussed that next week we're going to just give him a transition card for the windows. So on his chore list will be just a little transition card to get him to his window. And we hope just by doing that, he's going to excel with his chore list. And so that was just really rewarding to really see a student who we know has a lot of anxiety just kind of jump right into a situation that we didn't think was going to go as well as it did.
So this, the first video, so the one with Gavin Howard, I think you should just be able to click on it. We were hoping it would be a little bigger, but this is as big as it gets. So I'll kind of talk through a little bit. This particular student is one of our non-vocal students. She is checking off her list, and you can kind of see that it has little colored icons on it. So she is at a level that she needs colored icons, I think, and then this is another student that works with her, and he's on a written list. So you can have two students with two totally different types of systems and what they're following and how they're working. And if you see her, she's going back, and so that's the supply closet. I think that's the end of that one, and it picks up right on the next one. So she needs to have direct colors, so she doesn't recognize. She has very little literacy skills, so she can't read or see. The numbers don't necessarily correlate. They have no meaning. So we use the colors for her, but what's real. Oh no!
I'm not sure if everyone can.
Yeah, everyone, just turn your head sideways. All right.
I don't know what happened.
Okay, well, so I'll just continue talking, and you can just let it go. But so one of the great things that our friend Hannah in the first video, what she originally was doing was taking the icons off of her list and then walking over and having to look for it and then putting it on. And as she's only been there for, I think, towards
2 or 3 months.
2 or 3 months, and at that point, in the video, she was looking at her list. She points to it. That's how she processes. And then she walks away and can remember it. And one of the really great things that we did with that was we put an orange microwave and an orange table to see if she was actually attending to the icon and not just the color. And she aced that as well. So it's not just the color, but you have to go slow with that. And that's something that we kind of learned, like how to expand it for her, so she was actually understanding what the material, where the locations and the appliances. I'm so sorry that this is sideways, but so you can see that there's a couple things that are repeated, so that we were actually testing what language she was comprehending, and so now we know that she doesn't need to pull off her cards anymore, which is a great way to kind of start pulling back on the systems. And she's actually comprehending what the icons say, which has been really helpful for us to know.
I love her. She's a student also who, when we first start introducing skills, we typically give them 3 chores just because it's kind of manageable for time. So she learned that she does 3. Well, when she got to Trinity, we started to give her 4 and 5 and 6. And after 3, she would just check down the list. She was like, nope, I'm not doing these. And we had a couple behaviors at first, but she has done great now. Now she goes through her whole list. And there were times too that she would just like look at it and like look at me and she'd be like, no, I'm not doing this. Like, this is not what I've learned to do. So she's come a long way. It just makes me very happy.
And that's just her sideways, but she's thoroughly cleaning the table. It was just a really great video that's all sideways, so I'm so sorry. But just to show, though, that there's 2 different levels. And then the young man that's in the video, he's all written, so it's all literacy skills. He has complex language, so a lot of his list, what we started doing was fading out the environmental structure. So his list will say, clean the white refrigerator, clean the 2 large wood tables, clean the 4 office windows. So it was giving him opportunities, and then we didn't label those things for him to see if he could actually understand that language. And it was nice because we had 2 totally different leveled students, but they were able to work together. They're both using the supplies. They're both at the same setting. And we just kind of adapted it for what their individual needs are, and so that they could both be successful in their own way. So then the next, if you want to continue, I'll just keep jumping in. No,
I'm
go
sorry.
back. Sorry. Yeah. If you want to.
Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't understand. Oh, boy. Okay, so our next internship that we're going to talk about is at a hotel. So this is a little bit higher level for our students, that after we feel like they've got a good idea of what they're doing at Trinity, we kind of send them now to the hotel. So again, it's the same system. So all the materials are the same. It's just in a different location. They have similar jobs there. There are tables. There are not microwaves, but tables. There's vacuuming, sweeping. There's a lot of the same things that they've been doing. But now we're adding new things to the list. So they have a laundry area where they can go and fold towels and pillowcases. They have food supplies, so they have one of those coffee areas that the students are going to stock. They have trash removal. Bathrooms is something that we're trying to get into. And then we're really hoping that we can get our students to vacuum the hallways and maybe even start stripping the beds in the room. So it's something that we've been talking to the managers there to see if that's something that our students could eventually do. So they are now, let's see.
Yeah.
Speech stuff. Sorry.
That's good.
So it's a lot more teaching here. So they're learning new vocab, they're learning new skills, new cleaning skills, more complexity. So once they've mastered the basics and we feel comfortable with their generalization, we're adding more and more. So it's pretty interesting, the collaboration that we have with myself, Kim, and then the teachers. So a little bit of every discipline comes into all of these things. So for like laundry, I'm looking at bilateral hand skills, there's different sequencing, food preparation, stocking, there's hygiene skills, scanning, categorization, full versus empty. We're all bringing our different ideas to the table to help our students be successful with the entire skill, so they can understand everything. With trash removal, there's hygiene skills in it, like wearing gloves or washing their hands after they remove the trash, understanding another abstract concept like clean and dirty is full and empty. Another very difficult thing for our students to understand. We can start learning it and working on it here. In the bathroom, they're learning, again, there's more hygiene skills, they're doing more sequencing, and this is something too where they're doing job responsibilities within one job. So we'll just tell our students, you're going to go clean the girls' bathroom. What does that mean? They have to understand I need to clean the mirrors, the sinks, the toilets. So again, just a little bit higher level. And then vacuuming, visual scanning. This room is very big. There's chairs everywhere that they have to move. Learning, where the dirt is and sometimes where it's not, but still having to clean it. Having those gross motor skills and also safety awareness is something that we really work on here with plugging in the vacuum and unplugging the vacuum.
So hopefully I'm hoping that these are all right set up. So this is just two different, we can just play the first one if you want. Yep. So this student has a mix of icons and then there's numbers. So he does have a comprehension of numbers, but it's very simple steps. So what we found with him when we are trying to teach at the hotel, when we clean tables, we have to clean tables and chairs, and he was having a hard time understanding if the tables and chairs were all, so 2 steps on one line, that was too much, left to right, too much, he couldn't understand, so he would only either do the first step or the second step. So we had to break it down top to bottom, and then that's how he understands. So his list is tables, then the chairs of the table, then the table, then the chairs of the table, and that's how he was able to understand. So he actually has 2 full lists because everything has to be broken down to very succinct steps, but then he's independent and successful. And then if you just saw Jess kind of popped in, he needed a little help with his fine motor, and so we kind of just recognize what areas a student might need a little assistance and then where they can be independent. Yeah, you can, if you want to. So, and then this student that is working in the second video is actually, his lists all started with icons. So anytime I introduce new vocabulary or language, so this is the only video with sound. So this is my friend, my friend Gabriel. He's very happy working. He loves going to work and he loves working at this particular hotel. But anytime I introduced something new, I had to use the picture cards. Now that he knows the vocabulary at this setting, he is on a full written list. So he just had to kind of familiarize himself with what the pictures, what the icons, and what the words were. And then now he's fully on a written list. But I had to work him through the system so that he could actually do it. He is phenomenal at this setting. He loves the jobs. We give him a lot more complex language and a lot more complex jobs because he is really enjoying it. And so we found something that he actually feels accomplished and feels good when he's doing. And so he's very independent, and that's kind of what our whole goal was.
He's one that we're working on those leisure skills, though. He just wants to work.
Yep.
So he's a leisure skill guy that we're working on.
So the student systems that we've been talking about are the lists. So we have, we try to use the most individualized list we can. So we use all different types of lists. And as I said, sometimes we combine the one student that Jess gave an example of. He is on a written list, and then in this new setting, in the church setting, he couldn't recognize windows because they didn't look the same. So sometimes we'll just throw an icon on just on the one word so that they can actually remember what they're doing. Sometimes it's that process of now you're in a huge room or the church, the huge hall that they have to clean. So maybe they do need to carry that icon with them for a few minutes to remember what they're doing. And then as they become familiar, we fade it out. But we try to find what systems work for each student, so that ideally what we'd love to be able to do is that as they graduate and they go off, we did have one OVR rep come for one of our 21-year-olds and come and learn the systems and how our student that was at one of our placements was comprehending what kind of lists, what kind of systems he was able to follow. And it was really great for us to be able to work with someone and say, all right, so he can have written lists, but it has to be concrete language. If you give a student a written list and just write whatever you want, that student will never be successful post 21. So what our ideal was is that it really could be something that we could say, this student can understand picture cards. If you give them picture cards, they will be successful at various locations. And that's kind of really what our goal was, is not just for the student to be able to clean, but be able to say, here's how they comprehend material and systems, and this is what you could use for them to grocery shop, or this is what you could use for them to clean up the rec room at a hall or in a group home. So something that they could actually use in other settings as well. So just some of the systems that we have them up here. I know you guys, everyone has to move quickly, but at the end, if you wanted to come look, we have everything labeled. So on our chore list, it has written, which has all different abilities. We have the picture icon. Sometimes we'll say PCS because we don't call it PECS because we don't use it as a PEC system. So it's just a picture communication system, but pretty standard board maker images is what we're talking about. We use photograph, and even some of our students, this is still like a photograph with color. We use color and object blocks, so we also have found sometimes just a giant square of color for some of our students that this is even too much. We might just use a red square on a red table and put a red square on their list, and then they know, oh, I match red to red, and that's what I'm cleaning. So sometimes it's even as simple as that, but they still, once they comprehend it, they can actually be independent at doing it. And we've used that system, that particular system we've also used in the grocery store, which again, that was our goal, was to be able to find systems that worked. The other area that we've kind of found is just the way that they utilize the system. So just, I don't like to cross things off on my planner because that looks messy to me. So I like to highlight them. So sometimes we find that with our students as well, checking things off, crossing them off, closed door systems or open door systems. One of our students, we found that having a list like this was too much, so we did a one-page flip book. Each page has its own chore, each page had its own direction, in essence, and that was the best option. As we mentioned, sometimes pulling it off and bringing it with you to the receptacle. One of the amazing things that we found this year was using a sheet protector. Actually, for some of our students that had the picture cards, they were compelled to pull them off and match them. And we were like, you can do this without that. So we started slipping things inside sheet protectors, and that magic automatically made them more independent without pulling it off, and it just, because they couldn't access it easily. So that was something really simple that we found helped increase their independence. And then we have folders, binders, clipboards, different ways to present it as well, so that they could ideally, as we said, want to put it on iTouches, but also folders or binders so that they can have it like any other high school student, putting it in their backpack and bringing it. And those are just some pictures.
Oh, yeah. Different systems being used.
And we have all of this, so once we wrap up too, if you would like any of the material, let us know. This was a lot of years in the works, so if you have Boardmaker share, we're willing to share that. Yes.
Quick question.
Yes.
Phenomenal job. This is a lot of
Yeah.
time and work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How do you account for or address quality control issues within what they are doing?
So,
Like they have completely wiped down the table, the edges of the table. How do you?
and so this is where it's been excellent to work. Oh, sorry, the question was how do we address quality control? Sorry, I'm really bad at doing this. And that's where it's been really great to work with the OT. So if you want to kind of.
Quality control is tough. We're lucky enough that a lot of our internships are okay if it's our students don't do it perfectly. They have staff coming in after to clean. So it seems a little counterintuitive, so it's just a lot of learning. We haven't really been held to extreme high standards at this point, which is great. I think the hardest part was having our staff understand that it didn't have to be perfect for our students, that this is still just a learning. They are still in school and they are still learning. Post 21, I don't know exactly what the qualifications would be. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, that's not the best answer. But for our students in our settings, they are just learning. So it's not, the quality, I guess, isn't as important as the learning process at this point.
And one of the things I know that we kind of target is the same thing as I said. You can't always tell clean versus dirty. So sometimes one of the things that Jess worked on was cleaning left to right. So we'll sit there and go up, down,
Yeah. So more
up,
like the
down.
task analysis of it, we'll try and alter that. So, and then consistency. So if I teach, speech and the teacher that this is the way I want them cleaning and they're consistent, then they're much more successful and much more thorough. So I talk about thoroughness a lot with my parents, like this isn't cleaning the table, it's the whole gamut. So yes, task analysis is a huge part of that.
Yeah. The environmental structure we kind of already talked about. So just if you would like to see any of it, if you want any of it, if you want to just go to the last slide, those are our emails. Please feel free to email. This is a lot of work, so we're willing to share it with anyone that listened to us ramble for an hour. But there's so many great materials. It is cumbersome, but the ideal is that you can fade things away as the students become successful, and not just saying only students that can read can do this independently. Some of our students are really, really independent and super successful. They just need a little bit of support. And so we found that this has been great for moving our students through. A lot of materials, and we'd love for anyone to ask questions or come see anything that you would like, if you would like anything in the future. So thank you so much.
Thank you.